Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, and in today's video we're going to be doing a get ready with me tutorial. As you can see, I am barefaced right now and pretty unfiltered. I just wanted to be a little raw with you guys and show you my skin as it is. I do struggle with some hormonal acne, which is a little poo-poo, but honestly, that's life for you. We can't all be perfect. So we're going to go ahead and cover this mug with the look of tonight, which I'll be walking you through. So go ahead and grab something to drink and let's get started. So first off, we're just going to go ahead and pin back all my little hairs, make sure I have everything pulled away from my face, so that way we can get a nice clean canvas to start off with. These clippies are so cute and they come in so handy if you don't want to crease your hair. They especially come in handy if you're someone who does your hair before your makeup. Sometimes I do that, sometimes I do it after, just depends. But if you don't want any clips causing creases in your hair, these are definitely where it's at. So first things first, getting in here with a little bit of E.L.F. Power Grip Primer. This stuff is one of my all-time favorites. It is a little tricky to work with, but if you get a good moisturizer underneath and you really work it into the skin, this stuff is amazing. It really makes my makeup last pretty much all day. Doesn't really budge much once I get this stuff on me. It is very, very tacky, very, very sticky. And like I said, you really gotta work it into the skin to make sure you get good coverage. Make sure that you are really smoothing every little inch of that onto your skin and you're not leaving any residue, because the makeup will stick to this stuff like glue. So if you have any unblended areas, it will definitely show. Next up, we're going to do some color correction for all the redness in my skin with this green Maybelline color corrector stick. As you can see, it is very loved and very used. So we're going to go ahead and take that stick, and I'm just going to go ahead and liberally apply it to all of my areas of redness, really focusing on the areas that are most concentrated as the reddest spots on my face. And I don't really put this on too neatly. I mean, we're going to be blending all this out in a moment here. So I kind of just haphazardly slap this on my face just to make sure I'm covering all those red areas. And then of course we're going to be going in with a little blender brush just to make sure everything is nice and infused into the skin. Now you guys, if you don't color correct, you are missing out. I'm telling you right now, if you're someone that suffers from a lot of redness or just discoloration altogether, I highly recommend integrating a color corrective step into your base makeup, because it will make all the difference. It'll definitely help your concealer do a lot more for you in terms of coverage as well. You won't have to work as hard to cover any imperfections or any pigmentation. Green is great for people who have red skin or red undertones or just redness in general that they're dealing with in their skin. As you can see, I haven't even applied any concealer or foundation yet, and already with this color corrector, my redness has toned down a lot. And it is making my skin look a lot more even in tone. Now you're going to notice a bit of a green cast on my face. That is not going to shine through once we put the concealer or foundation on. Here we are with our color corrector set in place and blended. You can see the comparison on both sides there after blending things out. Next step here is foundation. This is the Juvia's Place foundation in the shade 710. Here we have the Fenty Beauty Liquid Foundation, and I believe the shade is 10. I don't think there's a name for this, it's just 10. A little mysterious, I know. Now I like to take these two foundations and blend them because they create a really nice color that I feel like matches my skin a little bit better. Not to mention the Juvia's Place foundation is a pretty full coverage, heavy foundation. Even for myself, it's a little too heavy. I do like a full coverage foundation. But not only does the Fenty liquid foundation help to kind of break apart the thickness of the Juvia's Place, it also helps to control the tonality. So if I feel like I want to be a little bit bronzier, or if I'm running a little tan in my skin from all the sun exposure, I can just add a little bit more of that Fenty since it's a darker shade. Or if I want something a little bit on the lighter side, maybe I'm looking a little pale for the day, I can go ahead and just add less. So really working all of that product in all over my face. And as you can see, I like to stipple the product in. I try not to rub the foundation into my skin too much because I use a brush, since I feel like it's a little bit more fuller coverage when I apply with a brush. But the only downfall is it does tend to show a lot of the streak marks or the strokes of the individual brush hairs. So I really just try my best to stipple the product on. And not only that, but stippling your product is definitely going to help it layer a lot quicker. So if you want to get more coverage out of a product, I highly recommend using a brush and the layering method. And I'm just going to go ahead and lightly put a little bit on my eyes. Make sure that I'm covering the under eye portion as well. I'm not too big on concealer, if I'm being honest. The only time I really use concealer is if I'm actually trying to go back and conceal some pretty gnarly blemishes. Really just making sure that we're working that product into the skin, and I'm buffing out any imperfections, blending out lines, or any places that I might be seeing any streak marks. Up next we have the blush. I use the E.L.F liquid blush. You'll have to forgive me, I completely forgot what shade this is, but I will be listing all of the products, including the shade names and numbers, in the description box below, if in case any of you are curious about what I used in my video today. So as you can see, I just went ahead and stippled some dots of that blush all over my face. I mainly like to apply my blush along the highest points of my cheek, going into the apples of my cheek as I blend here. And I also like to dot the blush all along my temples and the very top of my forehead, kind of tracing along the hairline here. And I like to put just a little bit on the high point of my chin as well. I like to apply my blush keeping in mind all of the high points of the face that would naturally have a little bit more redness through sun exposure from day to day, just kind of living and activity. So I try to replicate a natural blush as much as possible, and that's why I usually like to apply my blush in this placement pattern. I feel like it adds just enough pinkness to my skin without making me look overdone. Plus, it always gives my skin a more natural appearance in terms of the coloration and the blush. Plus, when I go back and I set my makeup and then I reinforce it with a powder brush or a powder blush, in a minute here you'll see, it makes things just look a little bit more seamless and blended, and kind of gives it that airbrushed effect where you're glowing from under the skin. Up next, we're going to go ahead and set everything with the Ben Nye Neutral Set Colorless Powder in Translucent. And you guys, this powder is my holy grail of powders. It is actually meant for special effects makeup, but I use it in my beauty makeup routine as well as special effects makeup or character makeup if I'm doing a look like that. This stuff is super fine talcum powder, which I know talcum powder is so incredibly bad for you. It has a laundry list of health hazards that it can cause, but if I'm being honest, you gotta risk it for the beat. You gotta risk it for the look. So this has been my tried and true when it comes to setting my face the most naturally and the most matte, while also letting my natural oils take over it over time as I let it sit on my skin and it infuses with the rest of my makeup. I really, really like the finish of this powder. And honestly, as I'm trying not to choke on the powder, and honestly, this stuff is a bargain and a value. I usually order it from Amazon, and you guys saw the size of that container. It's the, I believe, the largest size that they have, at least on Amazon. And I think I pay like 25 bucks for it, which I know sounds steep, but you guys, this bottle lasts me absolutely forever. Like, you will not regret this purchase if you decide to give this powder a try. I highly, highly recommend it. Now I know I'm looking a little ghoulish right now with all of this white translucent powder all over me, but I promise you, once it's infused with my skin and I blend things out, this white cast will eventually go away, especially once we work on adding the rest of the blush and the bronzer. Everything will come back to its place and I will look more like a human, I promise. So I'm just working the product into my skin. Now I'm going to go in with a fluffy brush and just dust everything off of my face and make sure that there are no harsh lines or clumps of the powder anywhere here, and just really make sure that we're blending everything out and getting everything nice and set, paying special attention to the creases and corners and nooks and crannies of my face, especially around the nose and eyes, and really making sure that that powder has fully melted into my skin and has been absorbed by all of that foundation and liquid blush. And we're just dusting all of that off. Dusting off all that powder, making sure we are nice and set to go. Up next we have our powder blush, also by E.L.F, and I believe this shade is Always Cheeky, and this is their Primer-Infused blush. I've been using this for many moons now. I know some of you may be a little confused, like, didn't you already apply your liquid blush? Why are you applying more? This is just the technique that I personally like to use. I use both liquid as well as powder blush. Like I had mentioned earlier, I really like to set the base of my blush with a liquid, and then I like to go in and reinforce that blush with a powder on top. I do this for several reasons. Reason number one, I just like the controllability in building that pigment, and sometimes I want a little less, sometimes I want a little more, so this technique is a little bit more forgiving. And I also really like the way that layering the liquid underneath the dry powder gives it a more natural and seamless effect into the skin. It's a lot softer, and that definitely makes the blush look more natural in terms of your skin tone and color. So I'm just going to be patting this in some gentle tapping motions, and I also take this opportunity to blend out any harsh lines that might have been left over from initially blending the liquid blush. Up next here we have the bronzer by Tarte. It's called Park Avenue Princess, and the shade is in the same name, Park Avenue Princess. This is the Amazonian Clay Bronzer, specifically by Tarte. I love this stuff in this shade. I think that it's such a great neutral / cool tone shade for people who lack pigment, such as myself. I'm very pale toned, as you can tell. So a lot of times when I purchase bronzers, they tend to be a little too orangey for me, but I personally love this bronzer because it is on the cooler side and it's very forgiving yet blendable. So as you can tell, I'm just kind of taking my time putting that product into the hollow of my cheeks, underneath my cheekbones, and outlining my jawline into my neck. And here you can see that before and after. It's subtle, but it is definitely there. Not to mention that the lights tend to blow things out a bit, so the colors don't look as vibrant, but I promise you that that bronzer is there. And I'm just doing the same thing on the other side, and I usually like to just kind of follow that pattern on the other side of my face as well, working it up into the temples and a little bit on the tops of my hairline there. Getting the jawline, the back of the ear, working it and blending it out to the tip and underneath of the chin, and then also working it down the sides of my neck just to give a little bit more of a snatched appearance. And I'm really making sure I'm buffing this product into my skin. I really want to create a seamless look. Now this is just an extra step that I personally like to do. I like to take just any run-of-the-mill chapstick. I believe I'm using the Burt's Bees chapstick here. And there I go, eating the napkin. I promise you I'm not a weirdo. I'm just going ahead and wiping off all that excess there. And I just do this to essentially remove any gunky buildup from my foundation. So we're going in with a little bit of highlight from my BH Cosmetics Aspen highlighter palette. And now I'll actually be using two shades from this palette. We're going to be using Bunny Slope and Frosted AF, which is a purple and pearlescent white combo. I wanted to go for something a little bit on the cooler side. Something a little more frosty. Ooh, yes, look at that glow. We're going to be doing a purplish look today, so you'll see as we get further into the Get Ready With Me exactly what type of eye look we're going to be doing today. And there's another little shot there of the glow. And I like to put it, of course, on the high points of my cheeks. I like to put it on the tip of my nose as well as the bridge, and then do a light dusting over my Cupid's bow. And I also like to do a little light dusting right underneath the arches of my brows to really enhance the bone, and just kind of blending things out. And now we've got our brows. I will be using the Morphe brow powder in the shade Java. This is another very well loved product, as you can tell. I will also be using the E.L.F Makeup Mist and Setting Spray. Now, I like to apply my brows in a very unique way, I guess you can say. I like to use a little angled brush, as you can see here. And what I'll actually do is I'll spritz the angled brush with a little bit of makeup setting spray just to get things a little moist, and I will then dip into the powder to kind of create a little bit of like an ink, if you will, with the dry powder and the wetness from the makeup setting spray. And then I'll go ahead and etch or sketch out my eyebrow with the product while it is wet. And that way I personally feel like it just gives me cleaner, darker lines. I am a fan of a darker, fuller brow. That's just my opinion. It's just something that I prefer to see on myself with my looks. And I'll go ahead and just go back in and reinforce any spots that I feel like are a little bit more sparse or a little too transparent, where you can see my skin shining through. And then once I've kind of set that foundation in terms of the shape of the brow, I'll go ahead and dip into the dry portion of the powder and go back over those areas to kind of set the wet portions of the eyebrow that I've drawn in. Plus, it will also help to darken the brow. And here we have that before and after, as you can see, major difference. And we're just going to go ahead and repeat the process on the other side. I'm going to be doing the exact same thing for my other eyebrow. And it's honestly so trippy to me, guys, but every person who does makeup will know that brows can be tricky, especially when working on yourself, because as we all know, our eyebrows are sisters and not twins. Unfortunately, we all have that favorite brow, and for me it is this eyebrow. My left eyebrow always is just so much more cooperative for me. I don't understand why. It's just the way that it is. So my left brow is the award-winning child, while my right brow is the average child who's just trying to make it through life, which, girl, we've all been there, let's be honest. So I'm just going in and reinforcing everything like I did on the other side, making sure everything is in line and making sure everything is nice and dark and even. And there we go, the brows are all complete, at least for the drawing in. So we will now be going in with the NYX Brow Glue in the transparent shade. And we're just going to be combing that through my brow hair. I really like to apply a generous amount because I need these bad boys to stay in place. And my hairs tend to travel around my eyebrow area, so I'll go ahead and apply a liberal amount and then go in with a little spoolie brush so I can better control the direction of my hairs and just make sure that I'm combing them in the direction that I want them to stay. And this is where I kind of try to create the laminated brow effect or the fluffy brow effect. So again, repeating the process on the other eyebrow, just generously combing through the eyebrow, making sure every single hair is coated, and then fluffing everything up with that spoolie brush to make sure it's sitting nice and pretty. So moving on to our eye makeup, I've got the ColourPop Super Shock Shadow in the shade Ripple here. It is a gorgeous glittery purple shade. Now first off, I go in and I apply this with a dry brush just to really set the base. And we're going to go ahead and do the same application on the other side as well. And I just kind of blend the edges out into the rest of my lid space, top and bottom, just to kind of integrate it and diffuse it back into the neutrality of my eye space there. But I'm focusing most of the color on the inner corners of my eyes, as you can see here. We're going to go for a high impact and bright and colorful inner eye corner today. And then what we're going to do is wet our brush with a little bit of setting spray. And I'm going to be going right back into that same shade and just reinforcing the inner corners and buffing out the color. And what this is going to do is it's just going to create a more intense version of the color, more pigmented version of the color. Plus, I feel like it really helps to set, there I go, making a weird face. It really helps to set the shadow a bit better so that it's less likely to crease and it just sticks on for a bit longer, if in case you have a long day or night ahead of you and you really need that makeup to stay put. So going in with some more ColourPop here, I've got one of their toppers. Again, I can't remember the shade right now, but I will list it in the description. So what I'm going to be doing is popping that right into the innermost corners of my eye, and then just kind of diffusing that out with the brush yet again. And what this is going to do is it's just going to help give a little bit of glittery pop on the innermost corners of my eye, just to really highlight that point and create more of a glitter effect. And we're going to go ahead and tightline the lash line with the KVD tattoo liner in the brown shade. So as you can see, I'm just drawing the world's thinnest strip of eyeliner on the top eyelids here. So I'm going to be doing this not to create an intense eyeliner, so to speak, but just to kind of fill the extra gap of space where my skin tone might shine through between my lash line and my eyelid, because I will be applying some lashes in a moment here. This is a little trick that I like to use to make sure that my lash applications look a little bit more natural and seamless. That way, once I've glued the strip on, you're not going to see any of my natural skin tone peeking through. It'll just make for a more seamless effect between the lashes, where my natural lashes are and the fake lashes begin. So then, using a run-of-the-mill lash curler, we're just going to go through and curl our lashes. I like to really focus on the base of my lashes to make sure I'm getting a good lift, because I'll be applying false lashes I just want to ensure that my natural lashes blend seamlessly with those false lashes and there is no separation happening. So we're going in with the Too Faced Better Than Sex Waterproof Mascara. I have had a love-hate relationship with this mascara, although for the better half of my use I have been loving it. Personally, I like to use the waterproof, not because I have teary eyes, but because for some reason waterproof just helps my lashes stay up a bit longer. I've noticed that if I use a regular mascara, it just tends to be a little too heavy on my lashes and it just instantly brings down the curl, which we cannot have. So waterproof is the way to go, and I'm just applying that at the base and rolling that through the tips. Ignore the funny faces that I'm making. And I'm just making sure that I am getting a generous amount coated onto those lashes so that every single lash has a little bit of pigment to it. So there are the lashes with a little bit of mascara. We're going to go ahead and take a pause here and go in with the NYX lip pencil. And it's in the shade Peekaboo Neutral. Love this color. I'm just going to go ahead and take this and line my lip line here. Now I do like to overdraw my lips just a tad. I really like to go in and just create a bit of fullness, especially on my top lip. My top lip is a bit smaller than my bottom lip. I just like to go a little extra ham on the liner for the top lip and really reshape and reinforce the cupid's bow of my lip and those outer corners, making sure everything looks nice and even and proportionate to my bottom lip. This has become one of my all-time favorite shades by NYX. I've really been leaning into a neutral lip as of lately. I just really like the natural look on me. I'm going to go ahead and take that same shade and line the bottom of my lips. Usually for my bottom lip, I stay a little bit more true to my lip line, although I might be a little bit more inclined to overline just a tad. Not as much, but just a tad to make sure I'm matching the proportionate size to that new top lip shape that I've set. You definitely have to make sure you get the corners of the mouth as well. So we're going to be applying some Ardell Naked Lashes in the style 427. And I like to use the Duo White or Clear Lash Glue. So we're just going to give a quick little blow after applying it to the lash strip here. Give it a few seconds to become tacky. And I'm one of those girlies that like to use tweezers to apply her lashes, so please don't make fun of me in the comments. I know that's a little bit of a controversial topic, tweezers versus just using your fingers. But as you can see, I have these clickety-clackers on, so given their length and pointiness, I just figured it'd be a lot easier to use the tweezers. Not to mention, I just feel like tweezers give you a little bit more control over that lash. So I'm just going ahead and plopping it right on top of my natural lashes, following that liner that we had set for ourselves earlier. And this is why it's so important to tightline your lashes, because it really truly does help to blend together those false lashes a little bit more seamlessly. There's that before and after. And you'll notice a little bit of white spots here as the glue is drying. Because the adhesive is clear, it will dry clear. It will not stay white, so you will not see it as it gets dry. And we're doing that same exact procedure on the other eye. And similar to the eyebrows, I swear, whenever I'm doing my lashes and I'm applying falsies, I just feel like one eye is so much more cooperative than the other. So after I've got those set, I'm just giving them a quick little fluff and coming right back in with that same mascara that we used to apply them to my bottom lashes, just to kind of bring them back to life a little bit and make sure they haven't gotten lost in all of that powder and eyeshadow. And I'll be applying that on both eyes there. So now we've got the Rimmel London Stay Glossy lip gloss. This is a new one that I'm trying out. Honestly, it's not too bad. It's just your run-of-the-mill clear gloss. And I'm just applying that right over my natural lips after we've lined it with that NYX pencil. We're just really doing something neutral and natural today with a little bit of shine. I just really wanted to get that juicy lip effect. And here we have the finished look. What do you guys think? A little bit of pop of color, a little bit of neutral. Don't mind my hair. It was hair washing day and my hair was a little poo-poo, which we do not like, but here I am trying to make the best of it as I show you guys the up close look, giving you a little side to side action there. Thank you all so much for watching. Sending love and light to you all. Have a wonderful night, happy tingles, and I'll see you in the next video.